The night was calm, and a soft wind drifted through the small village. The gentle crackle of a fireplace filled the room, its amber glow spreading across the walls and creating dancing shadows. I sat back in my chair, letting the warmth envelop me, and began to tell a story, one meant to ease your thoughts and carry you gently into rest. Tonight, we journey to a time long past, a quiet village where nights stretched endlessly, and every detail of life was observed with careful attention. In this village, people awoke with the sun. The men worked in fields, the women tended homes and animals, and children quietly watched and learned, absorbing wisdom without words. Evenings were the most cherished times. Families gathered near the hearth, sharing tales, reflecting on the day, and listening to the elders recount events from the past. These stories were not hurried or loud, but slow, deliberate, and soothing, designed to calm the mind and gently guide it toward serenity. The village itself was simple. Dirt paths wound between small clay and straw homes, and the air smelled faintly of wood smoke from hearths. Night sounds were subtle, the occasional bark of a distant dog, the whisper of leaves in the breeze, the soft cooing of an owl. These sounds formed a rhythm, a quiet symphony that accompanied the slow passage of hours. Each home had a small lantern, casting soft, flickering light that illuminated faces and furniture alike. Children learned patience by observing, adults shared their experience through measured words, and the elders' calm voices offered gentle guidance. Every story, no matter how small, contained layers of meaning, lessons about patience, resilience, observation, and harmony with the natural world. As the fire crackled, the shadows shifted, the room settled into quiet stillness, and the night stretched on. The villagers' routine, simple though it was, contained subtle beauty, each action deliberate, each moment observed. The rhythm of life was slow and calming, a perfect environment to unwind, reflect, and let the mind drift toward sleep. Tonight, as I speak to you by this imagined fire, feel the warmth, notice the gentle sounds, and allow the stories to lull you into a state of calm. Think of the long nights, the slow stories, and the comforting routine of a village long past. Let your thoughts soften, your muscles relax, and your mind follow the gentle flow of the tale, drifting effortlessly toward rest. In the coming hours, we will explore the village further. Quiet streets, sleeping animals, and tales from distant times. You will hear of simple joys, subtle mysteries, and small events that shaped lives. The calm narrative, punctuated only by the soft crackle of fire, will guide you deeper into relaxation, easing every worry and carrying you gently towards sleep. The old man did not move when the fire shifted. He only adjusted the blanket on his knees and continued, as if the flames themselves were listening. "The night after the war," he said softly, "was quieter than the war itself. Outside, the wind passed like a tired breath. Inside, the fire cracked once, then settled again." The old man's voice stayed low, steady, never demanding attention, only inviting it. He spoke of soldiers who returned home carrying silence instead of stories, of letters never opened, of names written once, then folded away forever. History books never linger on these moments, he said, but they are the moments that last the longest. He leaned forward slightly, hands open to the warmth. "Victory," he murmured, "is loud. Survival is quiet." The fire seemed to agree, glowing without flare. "Some nights," he explained, The past feels heavier when everything else is still. That is why people tell stories before sleep, not to remember everything, but to set things down gently. He told of an old watch found in the rubble of a city long rebuilt. The watch no longer worked, yet someone kept it. Not for time, but for proof that time had passed, and they had lived through it. The old man paused, not for effect, just to breathe. History, he said, is not made of dates. It is made of people trying to rest. The fire softened again, lower now, calmer. The room felt smaller, safer. He promised there would be no battles tonight. No shouting, only the quiet truth that even the longest nights eventually move toward morning. And until then, the old man whispered, we sit by the fire and let the world slow down. His voice faded slightly, blending with the steady crackle, leaving only warmth behind. The old man stayed still as the fire continued its slow breathing. Somewhere between one crackle and the next, he reached into his coat and imagined the old watch again, the one that no longer told time. You see, he said softly, time does not always move forward. Sometimes it sits with us. He remembered how the watch had been found beneath a staircase in a city once broken by war. The building was gone now, replaced by clean streets and quiet cafes. Yet the watch remained, frozen at a single minute, as if it had chosen to stop there on purpose. The old man believed that moment mattered. That minute, he explained, might have been when someone paused, when they chose not to run, when they waited for someone who never returned. History never records those seconds, but they shape everything that comes after. The firelight danced gently across the walls, slower now, softer. He spoke of nights when generals slept soundly, while ordinary people lay awake, listening for footsteps that never came. Of kitchens that stayed warm, even when the world outside felt cold and uncertain. Of clocks ticking loudly in empty rooms, reminding people that they were still alive. Survival, the old man whispered, is not heroic. It is patient. He shifted slightly, the chair responding with a quiet creak. His voice never rose. It didn't need to. The watch, he said, was later given to a child, years after the war ended. The child asked why it didn't work, and the answer was simple. It has already done its job. The old man smiled faintly at the thought. Some stories are not meant to move forward. They are meant to stay, to hold a place in time so the rest of us can rest. The fire burned lower now, steady and calm. Shadows grew longer but softer too. Tonight, he continued, there is nothing you need to remember, nothing you need to solve. Only the slow understanding that the past is quiet now, and the night is safe. The old man let the silence stretch, not empty but full of warmth, full of rest. And as the fire settled into its deepest glow, time at last seemed willing to sleep. The fire was quieter now. Not weaker, just calmer. Its light moved slowly across the room, as if it had learned patience from the night itself. The old man rested his hands near the warmth. He did not touch the flames. He had learned long ago that some things should only be felt, not held. Fire remembers, he said softly. People forget. Fire does not. He had seen this same glow once, many years ago, far from this chair. A different place. A colder night. A war that had not yet decided what it would take. Back then, men sat around a fire like this without speaking, because if they spoke, their voices might shake. And if their voices shook, everything else might fall apart. History would later write down dates. Victories. Names carved into stone. But history never wrote about the quiet ones. The ones who stared into the fire and thought of nothing, because thinking hurt too much. The old man's voice moved slowly like drifting smoke. He spoke of a soldier whose name was never recorded, a man who did not understand politics or borders. He only knew that when morning came, he would have to walk forward. That was all. No medals waited for him. No photographs. No one would tell his story out loud. But the fire saw him, and the fire remembered. A soft crack came from the hearth. Wood settling. Breathing. "We have all sat beside some kind of fire," the old man murmured. "Some of us beside the fires of war, some beside the fires of loss, and some beside the fires that help us rest." His voice grew even lower, almost blending with the sound itself. "Tonight," he continued, "this fire asks nothing from you." Outside this room, the world kept moving. News, noise, endless urgency. But none of that crossed the firelight. Here there was only warmth, and a voice that was not asking you to stay awake. The flames dipped gently, then steadied again. Not ending, just slowing. "What has already burned," the old man whispered, "no longer hurts." The chair gave a small, familiar sound as he leaned back. Then he became still. The silence that followed was not empty. It was protective. A kind silence. The fire watched. The night deepened. And you did not need to do anything at all. Just listen, and let the warmth keep watch. The fire continued to breathe. Not loudly, not urgently. Just enough to remind the room that time was still moving, even if no one asked it to. The old man remained silent for a long moment. He understood the value of pauses. Some truths arrive only when nothing else is speaking. Then, without lifting his head, he began again. "There were hours," he said quietly, "that history never learned how to name. Hours between battles, hours between letters sent and answers never returned. Hours where nothing happened, and yet everything changed." He remembered a night when clocks stopped mattering, not because they were broken, but because no one looked at them anymore. In that place, men waited, not for orders, not for victory. They waited for morning, because morning meant survival was still possible. The fire reflected in the old man's eyes. The fire did not fade. It simply settled. Flames lowered themselves as if they too were preparing for rest. The room grew darker, not empty, just calmer. The old man watched the embers for a while before speaking again. He never rushed the night. Nights remembered impatience. "When fires grow quiet," he said softly, "they begin to tell older stories. Not the kind written in books. The kind carried in breath, in pauses, in the way people look away before answering." He spoke of soldiers who returned without parades. Men whose names were never carved into stone. They came home thinner, quieter, and learned quickly that the world preferred them silent. History moved on. It always does. But those men carried something heavy. Not fear, not anger, but memory. The old man adjusted slightly in his chair. The movement was slow, careful, as if even the air deserved respect. "Memory," he said, "is not loud. It does not interrupt. It waits." He remembered a general once, not famous, not disgraced, simply forgotten. This man had made a choice on a fog-covered morning, a choice that saved 1,000 lives, and ended his own career. No one thanked him. No one accused him either. History had no space for hesitation. The fire made a soft crack, sending a brief glow across the walls. "Courage," the old man continued, "is often mistaken for noise. But the bravest moments," he said, "usually sound like nothing at all." The room felt heavier now, but not uncomfortable. Like a blanket placed gently, not pressed down. "If you are still listening," he murmured, "your body already knows what to do. Sleep," he said, "is not something you fall into. It is something you allow." Outside, unseen clocks kept their schedules. Inside, time loosened its grip. The old man's voice slowed further, each word spaced carefully, as though they were stepping stones across quiet water. There were people, he said, who lived entire lives between headlines. They loved. They worried. They waited. And when history passed them by, they remained, he whispered, exactly where they were. The fire responded with warmth, not flame. You do not need to remember these stories, the old man said gently. They are not asking to stay. They are only passing through, he added, like the night itself. The glow dimmed again. The silence thickened, not empty, but kind. And whatever remains, he finished, can rest now. The fire lowered once more, and the room, content with stillness, held you there, without asking you to stay awake. The room did not change, but something inside it softened. The fire was lower now, no longer reaching upward, only breathing slow and steady. The old man waited before speaking again. He understood that silence was part of the story. When nothing is demanded of you, he said at last, the mind finally loosens its grip. He leaned back slightly, the chair answering with a quiet sound. Old wood, old patience. There were nights, he continued, when entire cities held their breath, not from fear, but from uncertainty. He spoke of a winter long ago, when decisions were made in warm rooms, by people who would never feel the cold. Outside, others waited, not knowing, not informed, just living with whatever arrived. History remembers the decisions. It rarely remembers the waiting. The fire shifted, a single ember glowing brighter for a moment, before settling back into shadow. Waiting, the old man said, teaches a person more than action ever could. He told of a woman whose name was lost to time. She worked nights listening to radios meant for men far away. Messages passed through her hands. Warnings, orders, regrets. She never met the people whose lives she touched. Never saw the outcome of her work. When the war ended, she returned home quietly and never spoke of it again. No medals, the old man said softly. No photographs. Just a life, he added, that continued. The room felt warmer now, though the fire had not grown. Comfort does that. It changes how warmth feels. If your thoughts are slowing, he murmured, that is not weakness. That is the body remembering how to rest. The fire answered with a gentle crackle, like a sigh released after a long day. There is a moment, the old man whispered, when history lets go of you, when it stops asking you to carry it. His voice lowered further, each word drifting rather than landing. You don't need to solve anything tonight, he said. Nothing is unfinished. Outside the room, the world continued its motion. Inside, it no longer mattered. The fire dimmed, then steadied. And when silence becomes safe, he finished, sleep finds you on its own. The old man said nothing more. The fire stayed low. The room stayed still. And the night, unrushed and patient, held everything exactly as it was. The fire did not go out. It simply grew quieter. The old man remained where he was, as if time itself had slowed to match his breathing. After a long pause, he spoke again. Not louder, not faster, just present. Most of history, he said gently, happens in the hours no one records. He stared into the hearth, watching shadows move like memories that no longer ask to be named. There are maps, he continued, that show borders changing. But there are no maps, he added, for the night spent wondering if morning will come. The fire responded with a soft shift, one log settling deeper into ash. He spoke of a soldier who never fired his weapon. Not because he was afraid, but because the moment never arrived. For weeks, the soldier stood watch at the edge of something unfinished. No battle, no glory, only waiting and cold air. When he returned home, the old man said, no one asked what he had seen, so he never learned how to answer. The room felt heavier now, not with sadness, but with truth. History praises action, the old man murmured, but it is restraint that keeps the world from tearing itself apart. The fire dimmed briefly, then steadied again, like a heart finding its rhythm. He leaned forward just slightly, his voice lowering further. You may feel your thoughts drifting, he said. That's because the mind recognizes safety. Nothing here requires your attention. He spoke next of a letter never sent, written during a long conflict, folded carefully, then placed in a drawer. The person who wrote it lived a full life afterward. Children, work, quiet evenings. The letter remained untouched. Some truths, the old man said softly, exist only to be felt, not delivered. The fire crackled once, then settled into a low, steady glow. If your breathing has slowed, he whispered, that is the story working. You don't need to remember these names, he added. They were never meant to follow you. Outside the room, the night deepened. Inside, nothing asked for effort. The old man's voice softened until it almost blended with the fire. Rest, he said simply. The unwritten hours are holding you now. Silence returned. Not empty, but full. The fire stayed low. The chair did not move. And sleep, unannounced and gentle, continued to draw closer. The fire did not fade. It remained steady, breathing slowly, as if it too had chosen rest. The old man stayed silent for a while longer, allowing the quiet to settle completely. Then, without lifting his gaze, he spoke again. There was a time, he said, when silence was considered evidence. The fire responded with a gentle crackle, soft and distant. In old courtrooms, he continued, what was not said often mattered more than what was spoken aloud. He told of a man who survived a great conflict by returning home unchanged, at least on the surface. No medals, no stories. He learned quickly, the old man said, that the world prefers simple endings. So the man offered none. Each night he sat near a small fire of his own, listening to wood collapse into ash. He found comfort, the old man whispered, in sounds that required no explanation. The room felt warm now, not hot, not cold, balanced. History remembers battles, he said, but it forgets the long pauses between them. The fire shifted slightly, a log settling deeper, sending a faint glow across the walls. He spoke of an unnamed town that appeared on maps for only 1 decade. No disaster erased it. No victory saved it. People simply left, he explained calmly. One by one, quietly. Nothing dramatic. Nothing recorded. Yet, the old man added, every step away was a decision, heavy with meaning. His voice slowed further, each word spaced gently apart. If your thoughts are becoming distant, he said, that is natural. The mind releases details when it no longer needs to stay alert. The fire softened again, its sound blending into the background. He mentioned a watchtower that still stands somewhere, empty for generations, no guards, no purpose. Structures outlive intentions, he murmured, but not memories. The old man leaned back, the chair barely moving. Nothing tonight asks you to remember dates, he said softly, or names, or outcomes, only rest. The fire continued its slow rhythm, steady and patient. Sleep, he whispered, is history's kindest editor. The silence returned, thick, calm, and welcoming. The old man did not speak again. The fire remained, and the night, undisturbed, held everything together. The fire stayed alive, not loud, not demanding, just present. The old man remained still as if listening to something far beyond the room. When he finally spoke again, his voice was lower, slower. "There are moments," he said, "when history stops moving forward and simply waits." The flames shifted gently, sending thin shadows across the dark walls. "After great events," he continued, "there is always a pause. Not written in books, not marked on timelines, but it exists." He spoke of letters that were never opened, sealed and carried across continents, only to rest quietly in wooden drawers. "Some truths," the old man whispered, "arrived too late to matter." The fire crackled once, then settled. "There was a soldier," he said, "who returned home and removed his uniform, without ceremony. No farewell, no reflection." He understood, the old man murmured, that survival itself had already asked enough of him. The room felt heavier now, not with sadness, but with calm acceptance. "History often praises courage," he said, "but endurance is quieter." The fire leaned inward, its glow shrinking slightly, as if preparing for rest. He described a bridge built for urgency, used only once. "It still stands," he said softly, "unused, uncelebrated. And yet," he added, "its purpose was fulfilled the moment it was needed." The old man paused. "If your breathing has slowed, if your thoughts are drifting, that is exactly where they should be. The mind," he continued, "does not need conclusions to let go." The fire breathed again, steady and warm. "There are names history forgot," he said, "not because they were unimportant, but because they chose silence." The chair creaked faintly as the old man leaned back. "Tonight," he whispered, "nothing asks you to stay awake. Nothing demands understanding. Only warmth. Only sound." The fire remained, patient and forgiving, and as the old man fell silent once more, the night continued its quiet work, softening edges, loosening thoughts, guiding everything gently toward rest. The silence did not end. It simply widened. The fire continued to breathe in slow, glowing pulses, as if it too had settled into a deeper rhythm. The old man did not move for a long moment. Then, gently, as though careful not to wake the night itself, he spoke again. "There are stories," he said quietly, "that never asked to be told." The flames leaned slightly to one side, reshaping themselves, creating new shadows that stretched and softened against the darkness. "History remembers battles," the old man murmured, "but it forgets the waiting." He spoke of nights spent far from home, when nothing happened at all. No marching, no commands, just men listening to the wind, wondering if tomorrow would change everything. "Those hours," he whispered, "were longer than any war." The fire responded with a gentle crackle, then returned to stillness. "There was a map once," he continued, "drawn carefully, folded neatly, and carried through rain and snow. It was never used. Not because it was wrong," he said, "but because the path changed." The old man's voice grew slower, heavier with calm. "Most lives," he said, "are shaped not by decisions, but by quiet adjustments." The fire glowed lower now, its light softer, more forgiving. He spoke of a leader who stepped away without applause, choosing obscurity over praise. No statues followed, no speeches were written. "And yet," the old man added, "peace arrived anyway." The chair sighed faintly beneath his weight. "If your thoughts are drifting," he said, "let them go. You do not need to hold them." The fire continued its steady rhythm, filling the space between words. "There are endings," he said softly, "that don't feel like endings at all. They feel like permission." The room seemed to exhale. The old man lowered his voice even further. "Tonight," he whispered, "history does not need you. The past can rest without witnesses. Only the fire remained awake, guarding the quiet, warming the dark. And as the old man's words faded once more, the night moved gently forward, not rushing, not demanding, just carrying everything slowly toward sleep. The fire did not flare. It simply continued, steady and patient, as if it had all the time in the world. The old man remained silent at first, letting the warmth fill the space where words had been. Then he spoke again. "Some hours," he said quietly, "are never written down." The flames shifted, slow and deliberate, casting long shadows that seemed to breathe along the walls. "History remembers moments," the old man murmured, "but it forgets the hours between them." He spoke of a night when nothing changed on paper. No borders moved, no victories were claimed, and yet something inside the world settled. "There was a watchman once," he said, "standing alone beneath a sky like this. No one knew his name. No one needed to. The fire answered with a faint crack, then softened again. He listened," the old man continued, "to the same sound you hear now. Flame, silence, time. That night," he said, "he chose patience over fear. And because of that, morning arrived unchanged." The old man's voice slowed, growing heavier, as if each word were wrapped in warmth. "Most peace," he whispered, "is invisible. It happens quietly, while the world sleeps." The fire dipped lower, its glow gentler, less demanding. "There were letters never sent," he said, "and orders never given. Those are the moments," he added, "that saved more lives than any speech." His chair creaked softly as he adjusted his weight. "If your thoughts are fading," he said calmly, "let them. You don't have to follow them anywhere." The flames stretched upward briefly, then settled back into their slow rhythm. "Time," the old man said, "moves differently at night. It does not push. It carries." He paused, letting the silence do its work. "There is nothing you need to remember," he whispered, "and nothing you need to solve." The fire remained steady and watchful. "And if sleep comes," he said softly, "you may go with it. No one is keeping score." The words thinned, dissolving into the quiet. Only the fire stayed awake, holding the dark together as the night gently continued, unbroken, unhurried, and calm. The fire stayed awake. It did not grow louder, and it did not fade. It simply remained, breathing softly in the dark as the night stretched onward. The old man spoke again, his voice lower now, slower, as if he were careful not to disturb the quiet. "There are nights," he said, "that history never touches." The flames leaned inward, glowing deep orange, steady and calm. "No names," he continued. "No dates. Just time passing unnoticed." He spoke of a road that no longer appeared on maps, a road once walked by soldiers, messengers, and ordinary men who never knew they were standing between decisions. "One night," the old man said, "nothing happened there. No footsteps, no commands, no fear. And because nothing happened," he whispered, "everything stayed the same." The fire responded with a soft crackle, then returned to its gentle rhythm. "Most people believe history is loud," he said. "Battles, speeches, crowds. But the world," he added slowly, "is usually changed by silence." He paused, letting the idea settle like ash. "There was an old clock once," he continued, "ticking in a quiet room. No one listened to it. Yet every second passed all the same. That clock," he said, "outlasted kings." The old man leaned back slightly, the chair barely making a sound. "If your thoughts are drifting," he said gently, "that's all right. They don't need direction." The fire dimmed just a little, its light softer, less defined. "Long ago," he murmured, "men waded through nights like this. Waiting was their duty. Not to act, not to speak. Just to remain. And when morning came," he said, "the world was still whole." His voice slowed further, almost blending with the sound of the fire. "Peace," he whispered, often looks like nothing at all. A pause, then another. "You don't need to stay awake for this," he said kindly. "The night will continue without you." The flames curled inward, calm and watchful. "Let the warmth hold the dark," he said. "Let the sound carry the time. There is no urgency," he added softly. "No expectation. Only rest. Only the quiet truth of a fire that keeps burning, even when no one is watching." The old man's words faded into silence, and the night remained, steady, unchanged, and gentle enough to fall asleep inside. The fire continued. It did not ask for attention. It simply breathed, slow, patient, endless. For a long moment, the old man said nothing. Then very quietly he spoke again. "There are nights," he said, "that teach the world how to rest." The flames shifted, sending a soft wave of warmth through the dark. "Long before stories were written," he continued, "before history had a voice, there was listening. Men and women sat near fires like this one. Not to talk, not to plan, just to listen. To the wood," the old man whispered. "To the wind. To their own breathing." He paused, letting the crackle fill the space between words. "They learned something important," he said, "that nothing needs to be solved tonight." The fire answered with a gentle pop, then returned to its slow rhythm. "Even wars," he murmured. Pause in the dark. Armies slept. Leaders dreamed. And the earth kept turning without permission. "There was a general once," the old man said, "who could not sleep. He paced through the night, listening to a fire much like this one. And eventually," he added softly, "he understood something simple. The fire did not care who won." The old man exhaled slowly. "If your thoughts feel heavy," he said, "you can place them here. Let them sit by the fire. You don't need to carry them any further." The glow softened, edges blurring into shadow. "Time," he continued, "is very gentle when you stop chasing it." Minutes loosened. Seconds stretched thin. "Somewhere," he whispered, "a clock is ticking, but it isn't calling you." The chair creaked almost imperceptibly as he settled deeper. "This night," he said, "belongs to no one. It does not demand memory. It does not require effort. Just breathing," he added. "In and out." The fire followed his pace. "Slow, steady, calm. You are allowed," he said kindly, "to disappear into rest. No one will notice. No one will need you." The flames leaned inward again, protective, warm. "And when sleep comes," he murmured, "let it come without questions." The old man's voice faded until it was almost part of the fire itself. The night learned your breathing. The dark held its shape. And everything that mattered was already taken care of. The fire did not grow louder. It grew softer, as if it understood that the night had settled into its deepest layer. The old man remained still for a long while. Then, almost as a thought rather than a voice, he spoke. "History," he said gently, "is usually told by noise. Battles, crowds, marching feet, raised voices demanding to be remembered. But history," he continued, "also has a quiet side." The flames leaned and folded into themselves. "There were moments," he said, "that never made it into books. Moments when swords rested, when letters were left unwritten, when decisions were delayed until morning and never made at all. Those moments," the old man whispered, "changed everything." The fire breathed with him. "A soldier once sat by a fire like this," he said. "He had survived every fight. But that night," the old man paused, "he realized survival was not the same as peace. The soldier did nothing. He didn't run. He didn't plan. He listened. To the fire. To his heartbeat. To the silence between breaths. And something inside him," the old man said, "finally stopped marching." The chair shifted slightly as the old man adjusted, slower now. "Silence," he murmured, "is not empty. It is full of endings. The fire crackled softly, then settled again. You don't have to finish today, he told you. You don't have to understand. Even history, he said, sometimes falls asleep before the lesson is learned. The darkness thickened, warm and safe. Long ago, he continued, fires were trusted with secrets. People spoke to them. Then let the flames forget. You can do that now, he whispered. Give the fire what you no longer need. The glow flickered, accepting without judgment. Worries, he said. Expectations. Tomorrow. One by one, they became lighter. The old man's voice slowed further. Sleep, he said, is history's pause button. Nothing moves forward. Nothing moves back. Everything simply rests where it is. The fire agreed. If dreams come, he added, let them wander. If they don't, he smiled faintly, that's fine too. The night wrapped itself closer. No one is watching, he whispered. No one is counting. The fire dimmed just a touch. Not fading, only relaxing. And somewhere between flame and shadow, between breath and stillness, history went quiet. Nothing rushed the silence. The fire remained low, steady, breathing slowly, as if it had no intention of waking the night. The old man's voice returned softer than before, as though it had been resting while you drifted. There are nights, he said quietly, that do not ask questions. Know why, know when, know what comes next. Tonight, he continued, is one of those nights. The fire bent inward, glowing like memory rather than flame. History is usually impatient, the old man murmured. It wants answers. But rest, he said, does not. A pause followed, long enough to forget time existed. Long ago, he went on, people believed nightfall was a border, between effort and ease, between story and dream. They didn't cross it quickly, he said. They waited. The old man shifted just slightly, the sound barely there. Waiting, he whispered, is an old human skill. Older than war. Older than writing. The fire crackled once, then settled again. There was a historian, the old man recalled, who stopped writing halfway through a sentence. Not because he died. Not because he forgot. But because, the old man smiled softly, the fire felt warmer than the truth. He left the page blank. And that blank space, he said, survived longer than his words. The room felt deeper now, wider somehow. You don't need to fill the space tonight. The old man told you. Sleep fills it for you. The fire's glow dimmed and brightened slowly like breathing. Your body remembers how, he said gently. Even if your thoughts don't. Another long pause. If the mind wanders, he added, let it. If it drifts backward, let it. History does that too. The fire made no protest. Nothing is being tested, he whispered. Nothing needs fixing. Outside the story, outside the past, the night continued to hold everything in place. You are allowed, the old man said, to stop carrying things. The fire accepted the weight without sound. Let tomorrow stay where it is. He continued slowly. It knows how to wait. The darkness grew heavier, kinder. Sleep, he said, almost smiling, is not an ending. It's a resting chapter. The fire agreed, folding into softer shapes. And for now, the old man whispered, that chapter is enough.
The fire no longer tried to be bright. It burned the way old memories do, without needing attention. The old man did not speak right away. He waited, letting the quiet settle into its place, as if the silence itself were part of the story. When fire grows tired, he finally said, it forgets its name. It is no longer flame, no longer heat. It becomes comfort. The crackle softened, stretching time thinner. People once believed, the old man continued, that fire could remember things humans could not. Lost roads, forgotten promises, names spoken only once. They sat beside it, he said, not to stay awake, but to let their thoughts loosen. The glow moved slowly across the dark room. History often pretends to be loud, the old man murmured. But the truth, he paused, usually whispers. A deeper stillness followed. There was a night, he recalled, during a long war, when no orders were given. Not because peace had arrived, but because everyone was too tired to continue. That night, he said, changed more lives than any battle. The fire bent low, steady and patient. Nothing happened, the old man smiled faintly. And because of that, everything did. Your breathing felt slower now, as though it had found a rhythm older than thought. Sleep, he whispered, works the same way. It doesn't force. It doesn't demand. It waits, he said, and you follow. The fire released a soft sound, like a sigh. Let your thoughts wander, the old man told you. Let them lose their sharp edges. If a memory appears, you don't have to hold it. If a question forms, you don't need to answer. History itself, he reminded gently, is full of unanswered nights. The darkness felt thicker now, not heavy, protective. There is nothing unfinished, the old man said slowly. Nothing chasing you. The fire seemed to shrink inward, content with being small. Even the past, he whispered, rests sometimes. Another pause, long, safe. If you drift, he said, drift slowly. There is no wrong direction. The fire glowed once more, then softened again. And when sleep finally takes the room, the old man murmured, it won't announce itself. It never does. The quiet deepened, wrapping gently around everything. For now, he said, almost to himself, let the fire keep watch. You've done enough for today.
The fire had settled fully now, its light soft and forgiving, no longer demanding attention. It only existed, like a memory one doesn't have to remember. The old man leaned back in his chair, eyes reflecting the glow. He spoke, but it was almost as though the words came from the fire itself. There are hours, he said, that carry the weight of everything without saying a single word. Outside, the world continued, but inside, nothing stirred. The air was warm, filled with the faint scent of burning wood, and the quiet was deep enough to hold thought itself. Most history, he murmured, is told by voices shouting to be heard. But the moments that matter most, he added, are often the ones that whisper. He spoke of a village long gone, where every night, families sat by small fires, not to tell stories, but to listen to the flames and the wind outside, learning patience in the spaces between. There are people, he continued, who lived entire lives without recognition. No medals, no photographs, no records. And yet, the old man said softly, they shaped the world in ways no one could see. The fire's soft crackle seemed to affirm him. There was a bridge, he whispered, built for a single purpose, used once and forgotten. It still stands, he said, silent, strong, necessary. The old man's voice dropped lower. Some nights, he added, exist solely to remind us that not everything needs an ending. Your thoughts may wander now, and that is as it should be. Let them drift, he said, like smoke curling from a dying ember. The fire glowed softer still, a gentle wave across the shadows. Time, he whispered, does not demand your attention. You can place it beside the fire. You can leave it there. The chair sighed slightly as he leaned back further. Even if the world is loud, he murmured, the night holds quiet spaces. Places where nothing is required. Nothing is owed. Nothing is unfinished. The fire's warmth deepened, steady and patient, as though understanding everything. Without needing words, sleep, the old man said, is the world's quietest witness. It sees everything. It remembers nothing. It lets you rest. And with that, his voice faded into the gentle rhythm of the fire, leaving nothing but warmth, shadow, and the soft, slow passing of time itself. The fire remained calm, its glow low, as if it had decided long ago to witness without interference. The old man spoke slowly, his voice almost blending with the quiet crackle. There are fires, he said, that keep secrets better than any human ever could. A log shifted softly, emitting a small sigh, a sound that seemed like agreement. People once confided their hopes to flames, he continued. Not because anyone was listening, but because the fire understood patience. He leaned forward slightly, the chair groaning faintly under his weight. There was a man, he whispered, who never told a single story of his life in war. No medals, no recognition. No one remembered his name. But the fire remembered, the old man said. Every step he took, every breath he took, every night he survived. The glow shifted, casting elongated shadows across the walls, moving slowly like memories drifting across time. The quiet moments, he murmured. Those that seem unimportant. They are the ones that hold the world together. He spoke of letters folded and placed in drawers, never sent. They contained regrets, instructions, hopes, all of it quietly resting, safe, as if the paper itself had learned to wait. Nothing, he added, needs to be solved tonight. Nothing demands your attention. The fire crackled once, small and precise, before settling back into its steady rhythm. There are towns, the old man continued, that existed and disappeared without notice. No one celebrated them. No one mourned them. And yet, he said softly, they shaped everything that followed. Even in silence, influence exists. Your breathing slowed naturally, falling into the rhythm of the quiet room. The past, he whispered, sometimes moves like this, invisible, gentle, undisturbed. The fire leaned inward again, its light comforting without need for attention. Sleep, he said, is the world's quiet acknowledgement that even the unrecorded matters. The chair creaked faintly, and the old man's voice thinned until it became part of the warmth. No one is asking you to act, he said. No one is keeping score. Just the fire. Just the quiet. Just the night stretching endlessly, holding everything together so gently, so perfectly, that rest becomes inevitable. The fire remained low, its glow steady and calm. It did not demand attention, and yet it filled the room with warmth that seemed to stretch beyond walls and time. The old man sat still, his eyes reflecting the soft flicker. He spoke once more, his voice slower than ever, measured like the passage of long nights. There are nights, he said quietly, that do not need stories told. No battles, no victories, no dates. Just presence, just breath, just the understanding that you are here, and that is enough. The world, he continued, often forgets the quiet moments. It rushes to remember the loud ones, but the quiet carries everything forward without fuss. He leaned slightly, letting the chair creak softly. Fires like this one, he whispered, are patient witnesses. They remember what is left unsaid, and they forgive what cannot be changed. A log shifted, sending a soft wave of amber light across the room, stretching shadows that seemed to breathe along with the rhythm of your own chest. There was a man, he said, who survived countless storms and wars. He never spoke of them. No medal, no recognition. Yet his nights by the fire were sacred. He carried the world quietly within him. The old man paused, letting the silence take over. Then slowly he continued. Your thoughts can drift. Let them float like smoke curling from this fire. You do not need to hold on to them. You do not need to solve anything tonight. The fire crackled gently, small pops echoing in the stillness, a soft lullaby for the mind and body alike. Even history, he murmured, has its pauses, its moments of rest, and tonight is one of them. Your breathing aligns with the rhythm of the flames, slow, calm, unforced. The past, the future, they can wait, he said softly. The only thing that matters is the quiet warmth you feel right now. The old man's chair creaked one last time as he leaned back completely. Sleep, he whispered, is not an ending. It is a kind companion, a gentle reminder that everything else can wait. The fire dimmed slightly, its glow now softer, folding into shadows like a promise. Let the night hold you, he said, and let the stories remain here, where they are safe And with that, the old man fell silent. The fire continued its gentle crackle, soft, steady, and patient. Outside, the world moved on. Inside, the room stayed warm. The shadows breathed slowly. And the night, undisturbed, carried you into rest. The last word was never spoken. Yet everything had been said, and for the first time tonight, the silence itself became a story.